imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole? Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of election, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition. It is August 2nd, 2013. I have a pretty jam-packed broadcast for you all tonight. Two guests, back-to-back. Hour one, I have my good friend Joe Joseph joining me in about 4 or 5 minutes. He just got finished with his broadcast, so he's taking a few-minute break to refill his coffee and stretch his legs for a second. He'll be joining us starting in the second segment in just a few short minutes. And then hour number two, I got Joe Banister coming on. For those of you that don't know who Joe Banister is, you're going to get to hear his story tonight. He's a former IRS agent. And if you've ever seen the movie Freedom to Fascism by Aaron Russo, you should be familiar. You might probably know who Joe Banister is. But Joe's an interesting, his story is interesting to say the least, and he's an interesting character. And if you're not sure about the income tax fraud or anything, by the end of my second hour tonight, you will be. So make sure you stay tuned for that too. But here in the first hour, I have Joe Squared, a different Joe. My good buddy, Mr. Freedom Link, joining me. In fact, I think he's ready now.
Yes, I'm ready now.
Yes. You got your coffee? You got your legs stretched there, buddy?
Yes, I do.
I'm relaxed today. I'm kind of chill.
I was going to say, you sound kind of laid back.
I've had a really busy week, man, and it's Friday, and I have a really I have a jam-packed show for the next 2 hours. I might as well just put my feet up and not relax, but at least calm down a little bit. It's been a jam-packed week. I'm going to start my weekend about 2 hours early.
So what do you got? You got one bourbon, one scotch, and one beer?
No, but I should be getting that during one of the breaks.
Now, Friday come, I don't have the rent. Out the door I went.
Yeah, right? Oh, $5 to anybody who can guess who that was. No, actually, I don't have $5 to give anybody, so I'll just say the answer. It's George Thorogood.
Yes, there you go. Ding, ding, ding.
One bourbon, one scotch, and one beer. Don't worry, we'll get serious in a second.
Yes, of course.
That's why I like to have you on Fridays for a little while, Joe, because it's the end of the week. We need to, stretch our feet a little bit. Otherwise, we'll go nuts.
A wee bit.
Yeah, I hear that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. So, Joe, I have a slew of things I want to go over tonight with you.
You have a slew of things you want to go over with me?
Yes, a slew of things. I haven't been drinking tonight. Don't worry. I have a slew. I'm talking like, what's his name? The cat?
Thuffer and Thuckatash. Sylvester.
I can't even do it. Thuffer and Thuckatash. Whatever. I can't do it. I try and I get tongue-tied. Anyway, I'll try to be serious. Okay, first and foremost, I want to talk about this story that everybody's been going nuts about. The police being tipped off to the pressure cooker and backpack searches. It wasn't by Google. Apparently, this ex-employee had used, I guess sometime between April and now, in a 4-month period, they had looked up pressure cooker bombs and backpacks.
Yeah, how could they possibly? I mean?
Well, but it wasn't.
They must
Google,
be terrorists.
But it wasn't. Well, they got raided by the cops or whatever.
They must be terrorists.
They got the knock on the door, I guess you could say, by the cops. Not raided, but they got the knock on the door and, hey, can we search your property? Well, everybody thinks that it was Google that did that, but it wasn't. It was apparently, and this is according. Now, I mean, maybe they're lying. Maybe this is a made-up story, but the Suffolk County criminal intelligence detectives received a tip. This is from a press release from the Suffolk County Police. They received a tip from a Bayshore-based computer company regarding suspicious computer searches conducted by a recently released employee. So I guess they just recently fired this person, got the computer back from them, like a company-issued laptop or whatever, and they were going through it, and they found something on the laptop that they felt was suspicious and decided... Yes. Now, again... This isn't the government, oh my God, they knew you Googled. I mean, of course they know that you Google that stuff. But that's not what triggered it off. It's even worse. What triggered it off was the little Stasi boss.
I know, you want to punch him in the face.
Oh, dude.
Are you kidding? I mean, that's ridiculous. Well, shame on that guy for not slicking the damn hard drive before he gave it back, I mean, that's what I would have done. I would do that. That should be a rule of thumb. If you have a computer like that, you wipe it clean.
Or just pull the drive out and put a new one in.
Yeah, exactly.
When they go, what the hell? There's no operating system. I don't know. The computer just died.
Damn it.
I don't know. Just
them's are the breaks.
And then there's a brand new hard drive in there, which when they go inspect it, they'll be like, this thing works fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll probably notice it's brand new too.
Nothing on it. I mean, nothing.
And I would look.
Well, and that's the thing, because even if you format a drive, they can still pull the information off.
How about don't be a cheap ass and buy your own laptop?
You can do that too.
How about that? See, that's part of the problem. Everybody wants government or work issued phones and laptops, and I work for a company that gives me a company issued laptop. And
man.
And I should say not government. Either government employees want government issued phones or laptops, or private companies want employees want company-issued laptops or phones. Well, what do you think they're going to do with it when they get it back, when you leave? You don't think they're going to search through it and see all the porn that you downloaded on? Why would you go look at that on your company computer? Well, I don't want to have to buy a second laptop. Then I couldn't take the money and have cable and watch ESPN. Well, you're a dick, okay? I mean... If you get caught doing something stupid on a company-issued computer, you're an idiot. You shouldn't have been doing it on a company-issued computer. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. That's why this country has the problems we have, because people can't even figure out the basics like that. Just saying.
Yeah, well.
You heard about the government agency that destroyed like $175,000 worth of computers and keyboards and mice and stuff because the computers got viruses? And they thought that they had to physically destroy the computers and the mice and stuff.
And that what did they do? Like have a 55-gallon drum and just like...
They had a contractor come in and physically destroy them. They actually paid somebody to come in and destroy the computers.
The mice and the keyboards.
Yes. Break them up. Like with hammers and...
Now, I will say this. There was a time, as a matter of fact, even now, if you have a thumb drive, they're not authorized. And any government computers can't do it because...
Gee, I wonder why.
Well, 3 or 4 years ago, that was a thing. Everybody was moving to those, and they were made in China, and China just so happened to be putting their software on there. And part of the part of it was to kind of like, take all this information that they're putting on the thumb drive and just transmit it back to us. We'll keep it safe. So that's what was happening. And it's amazing. They got away with a bunch of trade secrets and everything. I mean, just big time. It wasn't just government. I mean, industry. So now, before you do it, they have to scan them to make sure, you know?
Well, all I got to do is say one word to you: Stuxnet. Okay.
Yeah.
You know how easy it would be to put Stuxnet on something, and that's there are other viruses too, but that's how Stuxnet. I use that as an example because that's how the virus got into the Bushehr reactor. It didn't get in there, okay, and affect the Iranian systems via the internet. It's not how it got in there because their main systems wouldn't be hooked up to the internet. Okay, the secretary's desk might have an internet connection so she can go on Facebook, but I doubt that unless somebody plugged a thumb drive into her computer and downloaded a virus and then took that thumb drive and walked it over to a computer that was hooked up to the reactors and plugged thumb drive in, the virus isn't going to get it from point A to point B. Hence why I can see why they wouldn't want thumb drives inside of a government facility. I mean, that would, if you're looking, look, I was former military, so I can understand OPSEC. That makes sense. I mean, between the programming from the Chinese and, you know, I mean, look, Bradley Manning was able to get stuff out onto a CD he had, right? Or he burned onto a blank CD and put it in a CD case. So, I mean, I'm surprised that they haven't banned every form of media on them.
But how do you do that? You know, how do you do that?
That's I know there's
you can't.
I know you realistically can't do it, and I'm not endorsing it. I'm just saying I'm surprised the military hasn't tried it.
Yeah, they need to go back to 5.5-inch floppies.
Oh, dude, I'm surprised we haven't even. I'm surprised that hasn't been brought up.
Or 5 1/4, yeah, 3.5, 5 1/4.
They're going to go back to the Radio Shack Tandy computers.
Ah, yes, the ones with the cassette tapes.
The one you could play the Oregon Trail on. That's going to be how we run national defense from now on, so hackers can't hack it.
My pappy bought me one of those way back in the day, one of those Tandy color computer 2s. That thing was the bomb. It really was. I mean, and it had a tape recorder, like a tape cassette recorder.
Well,
that's what you would record your data on, was a cassette.
We might as well go back to that.
You can. You know, part of the solution to a lot of this snooping, reverse engineer.
Dude, did you see what the Russians did?
Or backwards. Actually, it's called dial-back capability.
Did you see what Russia did?
What did they do?
Their federal agency, one of their federal.
Oh, they went back to typewriters. Yeah.
They're using typewriters for all their like secret stuff and secret reports and stuff. So that they can't get hacked.
Dial back, baby. You know what? Because you can't monitor that so easy, can you?
Right. Exactly.
Same thing. You know, if the internet shuts down and you don't have an IP-based phone, which if you have cable modems, that's IP-based. That's voice over IP you got for your phone. But if you still have the DSL copper line, you can start BBSing again, you know, bulletin board systems over dial-up. You do that, guess what? The hell with the internet. You got it. It may be slow, but you're still connecting. You can still transfer data and information.
That's why I always tell everybody to get solid copies of books and stuff, too. Like
same thing.
Physical copies of books. People are like, oh, dude, how come you don't embrace the Kindle? Yeah, one solar flare EMP blast or whatever, you know, short circuit, and there goes all your stuff. Plus, they could wirelessly get into that thing. My love for anything like that, one of those e-readers, or I really didn't have a love for them. I should say my inquisitiveness into them was killed when they pulled that stunt when Amazon went and pulled 1984 and Animal Farm off of people's Kindles because they said they didn't. Yeah. Well, first of all, don't you find it ironic that those were the two titles that they pulled off of people's Kindles? I mean, you can define irony. You know?
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but that really killed my urge for any of those things because I was like, wow. First of all, I already knew that they could do that, or I shouldn't say I knew 100%. I like 95% knew, but I didn't have the confirmation from them. But when they yanked it out of people's Kindles, I was like, yeah, I don't need that. I'm good. Thanks. Well, why don't you want one? I already have an electronic leash, a cell phone. I don't need an e-reader and all this other crap. You know what I like? I like being able to hold a book in my hands and thumb through the pages. That's what I like.
You know what? Me too. And same thing like if you notice schematics, automobile manuals, technical manuals are all going electronic now. And you know how hard it is to troubleshoot off a schematic on a computer screen and having to go back and forth from one screen to the next.
Or you're laying underneath the car.
Yeah,
and instead of being able to pick up the schematic and look at it with a flashlight and then literally just turn your head 3 inches and look at the wiring and then look back. And no, now you have to hold up your cell phone with your greasy-ass hand, which you don't really want to be touching anyway, right? You got to hold up the cell phone with your greasy-ass hand. And then, of course, your freaking screen goes out because it's got the power saver setting to not kill your battery. So now you're dicking with your phone and dropping your wrench, and you're like, F this. You toss the phone across the garage. Nothing gets done, and you walk out all pissed off.
That's what I'm saying.
How? I mean, what are we doing?
That's what I'm saying.
Dude, we're honestly, people are getting more retarded. I mean, I know people were already getting dumbed down to begin with, but besides the schooling, technology is making people totally retarded. I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, GPS has totally retarded people. I know guys that used to read maps, truck drivers, they can't read a map anymore. Like, I found that happening to myself, and I stopped using my I use my GPS if I'm going somewhere and I don't have the time to, and I still look on a map, like to get a general idea of where it is in my head. I'll look on like a Google Earth map or whatever, like I'll look at the satellite image. But I'll use GPS once in a while. And what I make sure I do is, if I use it, I map because I've always had this ability, and most people can. If you pay attention where you're driving, your brain will remember the route. Right? That's how most people drove around, ironically, before GPS was invented. Woohoo! I know. They didn't have to be told where to go. So I memorize in my head the whole path and the route. I don't need to use I keep the GPS in the car with me in case I need it, in case maybe I have to try to beat traffic. I'll give you an alternative route. But and if I don't know an alternative route that can cut around side streets or whatever. But other than that, I try to memorize the routes now, because that's how we used to do it, before GPS came out.
You ever have the map in the glove compartment, you know what I mean? And then you could do that. But, I mean, it's funny. People don't even know how to read maps anymore.
Dude, they look at a map and it's like drool. Just drool coming out of the mouth. Or how about changing tires on a car?
Oh, God.
I said this the other. It should be a mandatory, because it's mandatory that you go take your driver's license test, but they don't put anything useful. I mean, okay, they put the state laws and stuff in there, but they don't really put any useful practical stuff in there. I mean, you'd think a test would be like, you need to learn how to change a tire before you can have your license, because that's something practical you would need to know. Dude, for AAA, I would go out on the side of the road, and there were more times, Joe, that there were women in skirts in high heels trying to change their tire than there would be guys. And 9 times out of 10, if not every time, when I would ask the woman, one of the first questions I would ask them is, did your dad teach you how to change a tire when you were... And they would always be like, how did you know that? And I was like, because you're out here changing the tire right now by yourself, right? I'm sure your dad probably taught you this. I'm like, good on your father. Parents don't teach that stuff nowadays. I would have grown-ass men out there, and they're like, yeah, I'm not getting out of the car, it's raining. And I'm like, you can't stay in the car while I change your tire, because your car could fall off the jack and I could get hurt. Get out of the car. No, it's raining. Well, you have a flat, dude. Life's a bitch. Get out of the car, you're getting wet. And then I would make them stand there and watch me change the tire, and I would give them like a presentation on me changing the tire, so that way they would learn. And when I was done, I'd be like, see, now you can change the tire by yourself next time. Because usually it was the guys. The women wouldn't complain about waiting for a half hour, because, that's what happens. You call a roadside assistance, you have to wait half hour, 45 minutes. I'd roll up, and it would be, John and his Bentley, and he'd be pissed because I didn't get there 15 minutes earlier, and it's raining out. Well, guess what? You and your khaki pants are about to get wet, buddy. Can I sit in your truck? Nah, the insurance won't. I'd be like, insurance won't let you in there unless I'm in there, sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're going to have to get wet.
Make them learn, dude. All right, the break's sneaking up on us. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. Yes, I could be a prick sometimes. People should learn how to change tires. We'll be right back. We do two-step with Lucifer when you get into this realm of evil. I was talking about that stuff last night, man. The pedophile rings that are connected to the satanic ritual abuse and connected worldwide, and just oof, evil stuff. So, by the way, when you hear that bumper, that's what that's referencing, just in case anybody...
No, it's not. It's, dude, you're a total Luciferian. Shut up.
Yeah, exactly.
He's speechless.
Wouldn't want anybody to get offended. Okay, I'll stop. Oh, God. Joe, what is up with people, man? Seriously. How are people okay with... What? Did you see this poll the other day?
Yes, which one?
34% think the First Amendment has too much free speech to it. That noise you heard was me face palming it.
I know, man. I know.
What
do you say to something like that? And where do you go? Okay, so let's just say here we are. We're stuck here because where do you go? Where do you escape to?
Well, you can't. There's no place to go. But my question is, what exactly is too much free speech? What do you mean too much free speech? Well, do you want to go to a dictatorship? I mean, that's what you have. You don't have. There's no gray area.
No, there isn't. It's one or the other.
Giving people power to control what you say and what you can't say, they're gonna just start to abuse that. No, that'll never happen. Really, because there's never ever been a pattern of abuse of power by any government agency anywhere in this country, let alone anywhere in the world, right? Oh, God, dude, I just turn
I
off.
know, man.
Seriously.
I know. Well, yeah, but I mean, that's like.
No, it's not just a TV.
How do you breach a subject? You know, that's the thing, is that some of these people are so far gone that they don't care to know, because think about it, man. If you're working 2 jobs and just barely scraping by, some people are working 3 part-time jobs just to make ends meet, or they're on government assistance because they can't find a job. It's pretty disheartening. So what they do, they drown their sorrows. That's what they do. They don't want to care about. They just want to disconnect. Make the pain go away. I can empathize with that, but at the same time, it's that's not going to fix the problem.
But that's done on purpose. See, that's the key thing people understand. That's being done on purpose. So that feeling of relaxation that you get,
it's beaten into submission is what it is, dude.
Yeah. Well, how does it make you feel to know that that's the people that piss in your mouth every day, and that's what they want you to do? So what you ought to do is you ought to want to do the exact opposite of that.
That's right. Watch a documentary. If you're going to watch TV, make it something important.
Yeah, dude. Something on that'll. Look, Netflix is cool. I know there's a lot of TV shows on there, and look, there are times that I unplug on my weekends. I mean, I do a lot of work on the weekends. Joe knows. Joe does a lot of work on the weekends as well. But there are times that we do take a few minutes here or there for ourselves and unplug. We both learn the hard way that if you do not, it can affect your health, because you can't do this and do everything else in your regular life without putting your head through a wall. You know what I mean? If you don't have some sort of outlet. So I can get someone wants to watch a TV show here or there. I like a couple different things here or there. Of course, my wife can't stand watching TV with me, because if we watch something, well, never TV, it's on Netflix, but if we watch a show, I'm always pointing out, did you see this? Did you see that? Did you see the symbolism? Did you hear what he just said? Did you see the hidden message that she can't stand it? And now it's I poisoned her, because when she watches TV, she's like, I'll hear her get all pissed off, and I'm like, what? And she's like, damn it, I can't stop seeing this crap now. I gave her a pair of Hoffman sunglasses, but they're in contact lens.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she can't take them out now. Well, that's what happens once you unsee it. See, she's a perfect example. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. But anyway, I understand that want and that need to want to watch TV, but honestly, and to disconnect. But you know what? You can disconnect and relax just as much by putting on a documentary, and you can learn at the same time.
Yeah, but something that kind of mentality, though, that hasn't always been the case here in this country. That's the thing that's most discouraging to me, is that, in researching Edward Bernays here lately and doing a lot of reading of his written work and things like that, good grief. I mean, you want to talk about changing the whole mentality of a country and having one person really be the hinge pin in it. Boy, that guy, he just engineered society to go from needs-based to wants-based, going from selfless, providing for each other, families getting together. If you notice, during the Great Depression, I had 3, maybe even 4 generations of the same family living in the same house to survive, to make ends meet. And
I'm going to cut you off right there, Joe, because the break's sneaking up.
Oh, break's sneaking up, yeah.
Don't go anywhere. Joe's correct, though. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. So, Joe,
Yes.
when you got cut off there by the break, you were actually getting into a really good point. That's why I said you were right.
Well, what I was trying to say was we've changed from a selfless society to a selfish society, from a needs-based to a wants-based society. And the issue is now, we're entering into a time that we're going to see Great Depression all over again. I hate to say it, it's coming. There's nothing that they can do to stop this. They're just pumping money into this thing like it's no tomorrow, printing, and it's going to come crashing down. And when it does, it's not going to be a collapse of society like everybody thinks, third world, yada, yada. I don't envision it as that. But what I do see is, extreme poverty. And the fact of the matter is that people now have lost that knowledge and that instinct of survival, of taking care of each other. Not saying that they won't get it back, but good grief, I mean, it's going to be a culture shock like there's no tomorrow, because we've become so addicted to that culture of convenience that it's going to be just a tremendous shock to the system, and a lot of people are going to end up dying because of it. Bad news, dude. And that's why it's so important now to do the research and educate yourself. A lot of people think that John King's kind of crazy when he clicks on the microphone and you hear his pressure cooker going in the background, but I got news for you. He knows how to do it, and man, that guy knows what he's doing, how to do it, and if any sort of inconvenience were to occur, and that's what I really equate it to, is inconvenience, because once you become accustomed to living a more minimalist lifestyle and are able to weather the storm, that's what it is. It's an inconvenience. It's not earth-shattering like it will be to a lot of people.
Well,
buddy?
Dude, I see a lot of people saying that, to them roughing it, they think that it's roughing it if, they open the refrigerator and there's not a frozen pizza, in the freezer section, or something like a microwavable bagel that they can, put in their microwave, which I wouldn't microwave your food if I were you, because it destroys all nutrients and you're just eating irradiated garbage. So that's really not healthy for you. But people don't know how to survive outside of that. That instinct, that knowledge has been literally bred out of people. I mean, there still are people that know how to survive.
Yeah.
But, there's this level of knowledge that's not there. Dude, changing a tire. People, 30, 40 years ago, even boys didn't go learn how to drive their father's car with their father unless their father taught them how to change tire. I'm not saying 100% of guys did it, but I would say the percentage was much, much greater than it is now. And you have parents setting their kids up for failure. I mean, I literally, dude, I can't tell you how many people I know. You'll try to have a conversation with them, like they'll ask you a question or something, and you'll start telling them like something will be broken, something simple. Their computer will not be working right, and you'll try to explain to them about their computer and how to just clean up the basic crap off their computers using the computer accessories that come with every computer, like the basic Windows accessories. And it's like I'm speaking Greek. You know what I mean? And they look at you. And you're like, dude, it's just a computer. Like, if you can't handle something this basic, then, where are you going to be when it hits the fan? And also, you're part of the problem. You're why where we are, because you don't know your ass from your elbow.
That's right.
And these are the people, what's even scarier is these are the people that are going to be running the FEMA camps, dude.
Well, of course. That's what it's all about. Come here. We'll give you 3 squares a day. All you got to do is go to work. And we'll even give you 25 cents an hour.
But like lemmings, they're going to run in there because it's going to be, oh my God, there's nothing on the outside. And oh my God, inside there, look, it's like a shopping mall.
Re-education center.
There's a Starbucks.
Yeah. 1984 all over again.
Yeah. Just with corporate logos to distract you. You can get Starbucks and Nikes on your way to re-education camp.
Serious, man. I mean, it's coming. I don't know what the heck and I know that, they can string it along, but so long. And it's going to go as long as we allow it to happen, but and it's going to crash. And when it does, just like in 2007, 2008, only this time it's going to be a lot worse. It's going to be a lot worse, and it could be this year, it could be the year after 2015. I don't know. I'm not an economist. I'm certainly not clairvoyant, but you can see the trends and you can see what they're doing. And it's the same thing out of the same old playbook. So if you can't see that and start educating yourself, like I said, instead of turning on a movie, watch a documentary. There's great places for you to go to get, documentary resources.
There's tons of it on your computer, but if you're one of these people that I don't want to see it on my computer, okay, go on Netflix.
The Century of the Self. You can search it now. That's a 4-part documentary on Edward Bernays.
Dude,
it's fascinating. Look, fascinating stuff.
Easiest way. Okay, go out. Most people like to buy new stuff, right? Somebody's going to buy themselves something, right? Maybe you're going to buy somebody a gift in your house. Well, they have DVD players now. You can get them for like $60, cheap as hell, that have not only Wi-Fi, but you can go on YouTube on some of them. And a lot of them, even if you can't go on YouTube or Wi-Fi, now have USB thumb drive ports. So, you go over to federaljack.com. You go over to the downloadable archive vault there. Click on it. And you can go to any of the sections that are there. Or if you scroll, like the 9/11 section or JFK, or if you want, for like a bunch of MISC videos, scroll down to the bottom where it says MISC and click on that. But there's a couple different things there. Anyway, there's a ton of stuff you can download, different documentaries, for free. Download them onto a thumb drive. Plug it into that new DVD player that has a thumb drive port, and look at that. You can lay in your bed and you can eat your snacks. And you can watch the documentary that you got from the internet. I know. The internet's not a reliable place of information. I love that one. Oh, the internet. Anything on the internet's crap. You do realize that all the mainstream outlets have websites, right? The internet is nothing more than a medium to bring you information. Like when people discount information because it came from the quote-unquote internet, those are the same.
All that is a pipeline. Imagine it as a pipeline. That's it.
These are the same people that think the internet is a series of tubes. So,
but the same thing is true about if you're using ham radio, you go over an HF, a high frequency link, but with two radios on like frequency. It's a pipeline. That's all it is. The internet is nothing more than a pipeline. And it's up to you to be able to disseminate and discern the information that you're gathering. So, I mean, really, dude, think about it. They demonize it because they know the danger it is to them and their plan. It's that simple. And they know, just like Thomas Jefferson said, enlighten the people generally, and tyranny and oppression will vanish like the dark at the dawn of the day. That's exactly what's happening right now. The light is being shown on these agencies and these agendas because of the work of citizen reporters and bloggers and people like you and me and everybody else out there that is taking the time, taking advantage of social networking, taking advantage of technology, and being able to beat them at their own game. And that's what we're trying to do. And I think we're making inroads at it. So, I mean, obviously it's working because we're definitely able to slow them down.
Well, that's why they're freaking out.
Yeah, freaking out.
That's why you get Jay Rockefeller. Perhaps the internet never should have existed.
That's John Rockefeller. Let's at least call him by his real name. John D.
Punch him in the face.
Punch him in the face.
Perhaps the internet never should have existed, right?
Hey, did you hear that some Democrats are calling for a bailout of Detroit?
Dude, I heard that there's one of the, I don't know if it's a state or the Democrat that's like the federal, but covers that area for the state. but one of the officials there wants the military to patrol the streets.
Hooray! Huzzah for that! Yes.
And somebody else said to me, I heard this. Somebody said to me, "Oh, you got to see, there's this great piece." And I wanted to slap him in the head. I went and looked at the piece, and this person was pretty much saying that, the only way to fix Detroit is bigger government, and that the reason why Detroit failed was because of limited government and because government didn't get involved. And I'm like, Detroit failed because government got involved.
Just name one thing that government has run well. That's what I want to hear.
They can't even run a war well.
I know. It's unbelievable.
I mean, the one thing you'd think they'd be good at. And no, they don't even do that right. I'm telling you, dude, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely...
They cannot. You know what it is. They can't do anything.
Well, how about Obamacare? How about Obamacare, dude?
That's what I'm saying.
Dude, how about Congress?
How about Social Security?
We can't have our staffers and ourselves, included in the, subject to the rules of Obamacare. We have to be, suddenly they're pissed because their staffers and them are being subject to the very law that they passed. And suddenly it's good enough for us slaves, but it's not good enough for their own people. And you know why? Because they said if they do that, they're going to lose like a third of their congressional staff, because they're not going to be all the really good ones aren't going to be able to stay, because they're not going to be able. They're going to be forced to buy this high-priced health care that they don't need or want. And because they already have a health care plan, and now they're going to be forced to buy, forced from the health care plan that they're comfortable with into one that they don't want or need, and they're going to have to pay tons of money out of their pocket, and it's going to cause them to have to quit their job because they can't. It's going to be too much money that they're losing, and they're upset over this. But that's the exact same argument that most small business owners made, and they were laughed at. But now that Congress is affected by the same thing, it's different. So they want to be. It's not that, and you would think that they would go, oh well, I guess we should repeal this law and do, work on getting rid of it because obviously we were wrong, it didn't work. No, they want option C.
Yes,
they want to be exempt, and their friends and their cronies to be exempt, and the rest of us to have to deal with it.
Well, here's the other thing too. Life is not. It's not easy. And bailouts, there isn't a bailout for every time we screw up. And the same thing goes for governments. Remember, your government is it's represented, it's for the people, The government represents the people, whether it be local, state, or federal. And it's the people's responsibility to ensure that they're kept in check. And in the case of Detroit, that didn't happen. So that's not the rest of the American people's responsibility to bail you out. As much as it hurts me to see the blight and everything else, guess what? It's the way it is. You deal with it. And if that means that you use that land for other purposes, dude, there's a house for sale in Detroit for $1 on the market for 519 days, and it will not sell.
Dude, how about all you got to do? All you got to do, well, not all. I mean, there's a lot to do, but I should say the big step, start to hold the scumbags that brought it down to the level of
accountable.
Accountable.
Right. Throw them in the hoosegow.
Yeah, everybody goes, well, that's going back in time, and we need to go forward and move on. And
okay.
No, because would you let someone come in your house and rape your wife and then, don't worry about it. Hey,
that's all good.
Move on. It's all good. No.
Next thing you know, you're going to have 10 son of a guns coming.
You're going to have like 10, 15 people trying to beat your door down and rape your wife. No, You have to send a message. You have to make sure that other scumbags understand what happens if they do that. You need to hang that mofo from the tree in the front yard with a sign that says rapist piece of shit around his neck. That's what you do to that scumbag.
And they won't come again. I promise you.
You got that right. I'm going to cut us off because we got a break sneaking up. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the final segment of the first hour. Wow, that went by fast.
Yes, of course it does.
Every time I hang out with you, it goes by in the blink of an eye, dude.
Yeah, well, it's easy.
Yes.
There's so much to talk about. That's what's crazy. I wish we didn't have to worry about this crap.
Dude, I wish we could come on air and, talk about, the most mundane crap ever. I wish we could...
It'd be nice.
Joe, did you see the new carburetor I bought today? Today, Joe and I are going to install the carburetor on my 67 Ford pickup. No, can't do that. I would love to travel, dude, honestly. It's one thing I like to do with my wife. I love to go out and I love to travel. We've traveled together throughout the state here, and we've traveled even to other countries. We've traveled, and we're going on a road trip coming up in a few months. We're going to end up taking it. Well, we might take a road trip. We're contemplating it, I should say. I haven't really cemented anything, but her and I like to travel, and we'd like to really travel the world, and we wanted to go to Stonehenge and do all this other stuff, and we can't. Because she knows that if I go to the airport with her and some TSA scumbag goes to grab my wife.
Oh, yeah, bad news.
Well, you know how I am, dude. I'm no joke. When it comes to my wife, there's no gray area. Like, I can be tolerant with a lot of stuff. I'm real. People, are really, it's really when if they see me, be tolerant and they're, wow, you're usually the guy that's trying to calm people down somewhat. Well, not when it comes to my wife. You put your hands on my wife, all bets are off. There's no gray area. You touch her, I attack. It's that simple. I'm old school. I'm not a jealous husband. I let my wife go out with her friends, do whatever she wants. But if you're a groping TSA jerk-off and you're going to touch my wife, you're going to be missing a digit. Just the way it works. So I don't fly because I wouldn't make it on board the plane. My wife would spend our vacation getting me bailed out of jail, so I just don't go. If I can't drive there, we don't go. And it sucks. So my goal, it's not to, I don't fight them so I could travel freely again. But, I would love to be able to go and explore stuff and all that. But I refuse to give up my liberties and my freedom and submit to being a slave. I just refuse to do it. And it's a stand I took years ago. And my wife actually, she's very, I got to say, she's very supportive, dude, because not many women would put up with that. But she understands where I come from.
Yeah. No, and I agree. I hope more people take a stand like that, and they don't support industry or anything like any industry that goes ahead and just complies, I guess you could say, with such idiotic rules and laws, because that's the only way you're going to fight it, Just stop supporting these companies that do that, these airlines or the trains, all that kind of stuff. I hate to say it, and the same with, these roadblocks. Next time you get stopped by a roadblock or something like that, hand them a pocket constitution. Send that chill up their spine. Tape it, put it on the internet. That's okay. It's all right, so what? You'll be on a watch list. Big deal. You've done your due diligence. Feel proud. It's like a rite of passage. It's like a Boy Scout badge.
People like to do stuff to get attention, right? Like you'll see people get tattoos, like big tattoos of something stupid. Why doesn't somebody get a huge tattoo of the Bill of Rights on their back, and then when they go to the TSA pat down, just wear one of those, the old 1980s mesh shirts that you can see through the mesh, like the shirts. Yeah. Just wear one of those things, like a really light colored, so you can see right through it, and have that Bill of Rights or
no, you can't do that though, because see that, my friend, that's what John King refers to as a truth bomb. You'd get the same attention that a person with a bomb strapped to their chest would get. It's the same type of thing, man.
You're one of them that
you're one of those you're creating a terrorist diversion.
You're like what the cop said to me the one time outside the health department when we were giving vaccine information out when they were trying to give people free vaccines, and we were giving away DVDs, and we got in a little thing with the cops. One of the cops said to me, "You're one of those people that reads too much."
Oh, imagine that! God forbid.
I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Dudley, no brains, moron."
Come on,
IQ. My Twinkie that I ate when I was 8 had a higher IQ than that moron in a costume. He looked at me and said, "You're one of them people that reads too much." Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I bet you his day job is selling propane and propane accessories.
I bet you the insides of his shoes say R and L, so he knows which one is the right one and which one is the left one.
I can see that.
They actually what they probably did is they probably had they had to put like the shape of the foot inside each one, like a miniaturized version of the shape of the foot, because I'm sure he can't read R or L, because he's not one of those people that reads too much.
Yeah, well, you got Joey Banister coming up here after the break, huh?
Yeah. About 45 seconds, break sneaking up on us.
Awesome. I shall be listening in, my friend.
Yeah, Joe Banister is, that guy's got a brass set of balls, I'll just put it that way.
His family's been through the muck.
Wouldn't fit in the dump truck. You want to talk about a real patriot?
Yep. Be cool to hear his story when you guys come back.
That's right. He's gonna have the whole second hour, as much time as he needs. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. Joe, thanks for hanging out.
Hey, man, no problem. I'll see you around.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 59 short, quick seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye, from FederalJack.com. It is August 2nd, 2013. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. I am super excited. You know how I am about bringing on people that I consider legends, and I don't get starstruck or anything like that. That's not how I roll. But there are certain people that are out there that I would consider to be legendary, and that I've said have a brass set of balls that would not fit in a dump truck. And my next guest coming up is one of those people. I'm telling you, he's taken on one of the biggest dragons there is, and he's paid for it. So I'm going to let him get into his whole story tonight. The whole next hour, you're going to learn all about him. But we have a short, quick segment, so I want to bring him up without wasting any more time. Tonight's guest is also, by the way, a host here on Unbound. He's got a radio show that you can tune into here and listen to weekly. All of his archives are here. I'm going to let him plug everything. Anyway, without further ado, Mr. Joe Banister. Joe, welcome to the broadcast.
Thanks, Popeye. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for having me.
I got to tell you, first and foremost, I salute you, sir. You have, as I said in my intro there, you have a brass set that would not fit in a dump truck. I don't know many people that, A, would take on the IRS in general, B, take on the IRS while working for them. And then once you do in this investigation that you did into, what you found out, you send the information to your bosses, and you promptly get told to, kick rocks. I mean, dude, really, honestly, thank you. I don't know if anybody's ever said that to you, but thank you for doing what you did, Joe, because when I've talked to people about the IRS or anything like that, and the whole total unconstitutional, the fact that it's totally unconstitutional what they do, the fact that just it's highway robbery, it's theft. It's literally they're under the guise of being a government agency, they're sticking a gun in your face. And to try to explain it that way to somebody, a lot of people, what are you, nuts? You have to pay taxes. What are you, a terrorist or something? And when I show people your story and I tell them what you had the courage to do and say, look, this guy worked for the IRS, and he says, no, wrong, they're lying. So, that takes the wind out of their sails. You're not some conspiracy and of course I'm a conspiracy theorist myself. I hate using that label, but you're not some kid, they love to say conspiracy theorist or a fat kid in his mom's basement with his boxer shorts on and a tinfoil hat, and that wouldn't describe you in any way, shape, or form. You worked for the IRS. You were, an agent, and here you are saying the same things that we do. So I have to say right off the bat, thank you so much for what you did, because A, it inspired a lot of people, but also it made a lot of people's job waking certain people up maybe easier. So I just want to give you a big thank you, because I know myself and a lot of other people really appreciate what you did.
Well, it's very kind of you to say so. I don't really feel that way about myself, but I guess after, 14 years and so few following me out the door, I guess it makes it look like a bigger deal than I treated it. To me, it was just a duty. And, when you compare what people have had to sacrifice and suffer, whether it be the Revolutionary War or the Civil War or going over to fight, in Europe in World War II.
Dude, you trust me, you made a huge sacrifice. I'm going to cut us off because the break's sneaking up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. So I don't want to waste any time. Joe, I want you to I'm going to give you, we got, about 14 and a half minutes. I want you to take as much time as you need and start from the beginning. I want you to explain to the listeners. Now, remember, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to let him give a little bit of background and, take whatever. I want you to give a little bit of background about what you did for the IRS and stuff. But he worked for the IRS, and while working for them, started to investigate whether or not people had to pay income taxes. Okay, again, that's they don't want their own actually unplugging from the matrix and starting to think outside the box. And that's exactly what happened. So, Joe, the floor is yours. Start from the beginning. You're working for the IRS. What you did, and then what got you in? What made you look into this?
Well, your build-up is so wonderful. I hope I can measure up, Popeye. But basically, where do I start? Well, 50 years old now. I graduated from college way back in 1986 and spent a few years in the private sector, and initially thought that's where I would stay. I had an accounting degree and had earned my CPA certificate, Certified Public Accountant certificate from the state of California. And as I spent a few years out of college and in my career, I realized that it was incredibly boring, and I didn't see how I could possibly last another, 30 or 40 years being in a CPA. And so you'd think that I would have already figured that out back when I was in college, but I got an accounting degree because I was told by a mentor that it was a very valuable degree and that I would always have work. And he was definitely right about that. But anyway, I was kind of looking at other careers and thought, what am I going to be able to do that'll keep my motor running and keep me enthused about going to work every day? And I decided that I should look at law enforcement, and basically federal law enforcement, because generally federal law enforcement looked for people like me, people who had accounting, finance, taxation background. So based on the advice of some people I knew, I applied to the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. The FBI, pretty much everybody's familiar with. Back in the 90s, was when they were really starting to develop a really bad reputation, of course, with Waco and Ruby Ridge and those kinds of things. But up until that point, the FBI had a pretty cool reputation. I mean, everybody wanted to be an FBI agent, including me. But it turned out that they had a hiring freeze. This is way back when Newt Gingrich was the Speaker of the House. And so due to that hiring freeze, the FBI couldn't hire me, even though I had passed through all of their gauntlet of qualification stuff, psychological exams, physical exams, competency exams. And so this hiring freeze came about, and there I was just basically waiting to get a plane ticket back to Quantico, Virginia, to be an FBI special agent. Meanwhile, this other application to the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, thank goodness that I had applied to the IRS as well, because the FBI, I'm just waiting around and nothing's happening. The IRS calls me in about August of 1993 and asked me if I'd be interested in a special agent position with the IRS in their San Francisco office. I grew up in San Jose, which is about 50 miles south of San Francisco. And, frankly, at that point in my life, I had my heart set on an FBI agent because, hey, everybody would think I was really cool if I was an FBI agent. And again, this is back in the 90s, today they don't have such a great reputation. And, how many people want to be an IRS agent? I mean, I didn't have that many friends as it was. Once you become an IRS agent, you can kiss whatever remaining friends you have goodbye. But the IRS was basically the only agency that was interested in me at the time, because it's very difficult to get into federal law enforcement. So the idea kind of grew on me. I learned more about what the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, or CID for an acronym, what they did, and found that it was pretty interesting. You did a lot of money laundering work. You did a lot of the same things that an FBI agent would do. It's just that your focus, your jurisdiction, was a lot more narrow. It focused on income tax laws and money laundering laws primarily. So basically, I could see that I would, be able to scratch my law enforcement itch by working at the IRS, and really I had the exact kind of qualifications that would, fit really nicely. Being a certified public accountant and specializing in taxation. So I went ahead and accepted their offer, and in November of 1993, I was sworn in as an IRS special agent. And for your listeners that aren't aware, right now today there's about 2,700 IRS special agents, and the special agent designation is actually it's called a GS 1811. And that series, that employment series, is present throughout the federal government. So if you work for ATF and you're a special agent, you're a GS 1811. If you're an IRS special agent, you're a GS 1811. If you're an FBI special agent, you're a GS 1811. So in terms of the government, the federal government, and how they look at you and your position, it's the same position. It's just that depending on the agency will depend on what focus you're going to have in your investigative duties. So anyway, just that with a little background. Most of the IRS, there's about 100,000 employees at the IRS, and most of them deal with the civil inquiries, audits, collection, that kind of thing. But they have this very small cadre of IRS criminal investigators known as special agents, and that's the job that I was sworn into back in November of 93. And the swearing in ceremony, I was the only one. Normally they'll swear in 10, 20, 50 people, raise your right hand. It's very perfunctory. But mine was very meaningful. I had my family there, videos, cameras, the whole bit. And I was very mindful about my oath because, you take an oath to God, and being a, born and raised Roman Catholic who was very much into believing in God and believing that God had certain rules, like not bearing false witness against your neighbor, not stealing, I think good rules for society. I was very mindful of that oath. And so I expected to spend a full 20-year career at the IRS. And as you may have noticed, 2013, I'd actually be retiring this year. Would have spent 20 years there. But there were God had other plans, shall we say. And after about 3 years of working at the IRS, I was really enjoying myself immensely. I was very fulfilled in my career, as I had hoped I would be, and was not, people might think, well, yeah, you're working for the IRS, you can pound on people and hammer on them and get on a big power trip. That wasn't what I was there for. I really thought that I'd be able to utilize my financial skills to serve my country. And, treasuries need defending, and the United States has a treasury. And, I still feel that today. Governments have to raise some level of revenue, and there are people that are going to cheat on money that they owe. So all those beliefs and standards are still with me. But what happened was about 3 years into my career at the IRS, which I thought would be 20 years, I was listening to a talk radio show whereby a lady, DV Kidd, was a guest. And the host was a guy, former special forces guy, a colonel in the Army, a real just nice guy. And he was very constitutionally minded. He wasn't, Republicans are always right and Democrats are always wrong. He just would talk about the truth. And many times, this is back in 1996, before the internet really took off. It was really refreshing on a mainstream radio station to hear someone who would talk about news that then 6 months later, the other mainstream would report on it, if at all. So, he wasn't afraid to report on things that were kind of fringe or out there, be the pioneer to bring it to people's attention. So he was a very trustworthy guy in my view, but then he has this lady on his show, DV Kidd, and she starts talking about the income tax. And I vividly remember listening to the show because I was driving around in my government car, in the Bay Area, somewhere between San Jose and San Francisco, and listening to this woman say that the federal income tax was largely a voluntary system because there was no mandate, there was no congressional law passed and signed by a president that made most Americans liable to pay the federal income tax, liable to file a federal tax return or keep records or any of those things that the IRS expects you to do. She said that there's not a law that requires that. And so I thought, wow, that's pretty brazen, for this woman to be making these claims. And why is she doing it on this show? Because I always thought that this host, Jeff Metcalf, was a real upstanding guy. But why would he have this kooky lady on the show? So that's the conflict that I had to resolve. Either I was really not a very good investigator, and Jeff Metcalf fooled me, or there's something to what DV Kidd said about the income tax, and neither one of those could really compute, if you know what I mean. So that's what set me on this 2-year off-duty investigative effort, whereby I went and dug into all the evidence that these freedom-minded people that the IRS called tax protesters had gathered, had evaluated, had analyzed. And I didn't create anything new inorganic. I basically just looked to either validate or invalidate what had already been researched and encountered in terms of evidence. So I basically just acted like an investigator, gathered evidence, interviewed witnesses, did what I was trained to do, but I did it off duty on my own time and my own efforts, vacation time, weekends, evenings. And really, if I had a bias at all, the bias was against what DV Kidd said, because my entire professional life revolved around the income tax as a CPA prior to going into the IRS, defending clients, and then, of course, as an enforcer whose job it was to investigate people to see, find them, have them found guilty because I did an excellent investigation, and have them serve some prison time. So it was very important for me to get to the bottom of this dispute. And after the 2-year period, just to kind of cut to the chase, because, only here for an hour, I unexpectedly came to the conclusion that what DV Kidd said on the radio that day was true. And I had lots of evidence I had found to back it up. So that caused me to have to confront my supervisors at the IRS. And when I say confront, I don't mean some kind of a nasty confrontation, but simply speak up. I looked at all of the Treasury rules of conduct, of course, my own ethics and religious background, and realized that I had no choice but to speak up, at least if I was supposed to keep my integrity and my morals. So I did speak up, and of course the reaction wasn't all that great. So I don't know if that's a good place to stop or take a breath.
Big surprise that the reaction wasn't a positive one, and they didn't run up to you with flowers and pockets full of sunshine and rainbows and screaming your praises. It doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, here you are supposed to be enforcing, the tax code against the citizens and going after the bad guys and get these non-paying tax cheats. And here you find that there's not any evidence that they even have to pay taxes, sir. And of course, you would think, because all government employees, when I was in the military, they teach you the same thing. If you see something, you can blow the whistle. You send it up your chain of command. Well, you did exactly what they would tell you to do, and look what happened to you. I know pissing off the powers that shouldn't be wasn't in your best interest, and you still did it anyway. So again, big brass set. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. So, Joe, what exactly happened to you? You obviously, you pissed off somebody. Like I like to call them the powers that shouldn't be. Your supervisors, at the very least. You submit this information. You do this investigation. An actual I know it's crazy. A government agent actually doing his job and doing an investigation, right? So you actually do this investigation. The one time the IRS didn't waste our taxpayer dollars and was when Joe was doing an investigation. And you do this investigation, you send it to your superiors. What was the repercussions that you felt immediately and then ever since?
Well, as you know, I'm sure there were some people that were, PO'd up the chain, but really the people that I could actually see with my own eyes had this deer in the headlights kind of look, and then they looked at me like I had two heads. Just a very odd reaction, and I think part of what didn't compute is that, if I do say so myself, during those 5 previous years I was at the IRS, I was very much sought after to be, whether it be first guy in the door on a, armed search warrant, and wanting somebody that wasn't going to shoot someone else in the back, and they were actually going to be competent to handle a firearm and not be, a cowboy. They'd want me on the search warrant. If it was a room full of 50 boxes of, ugly accounting records, they'd want my help because they wouldn't know where to start. So everyone kind of really liked Joe. We really got along. People thought that I was a competent, hard-charging investigator. But then when I talked about the income tax, all of a sudden it's just like everybody clams up and they're like, what? It's just they couldn't process it. But never, I presented it to my supervisors because they took the same oath to support and defend the Constitution that I did. They were subject to the same Treasury rules of conduct, and you very admirably mentioned before about that there are plenty of requirements where agents are supposed to report fraud, waste, and abuse. I still have the memorandum from the commissioner at that time, where he sent out a memo to every IRS employee, like 100,000 memos, telling us if you see fraud, waste, and abuse, speak up, report it. So, of course, that's all but the kind of fraud, waste, and abuse that I found. If it's some toilet seat or somebody, purchased a billion too many bullets, that's okay. But if you find out that the American people might be being lied to and cheated out of trillions of dollars, that's off limits. So they had a very odd reaction, and when I presented my report and my information, and I presented this letter where I said I really need to discuss this because I'd like to move forward in my job and my career, but I can't because, at least I can't yet, unless you show me the error of my analysis, if there is any error. You guys are all, basically I've gone to bat for this agency and for the income tax, and I've tried to defend this status quo position, but I'm having trouble doing so. And so I need input from my peers and my supervisors to show me how I can get myself, centered again. And that's where there was the breakdown. I also said, if you can't show me, I'm going to have to resign. And that's basically the offer that they took me up on. They encouraged me to resign and offered to give me the paperwork to resign. That was basically their reaction. So I resigned on February 25th, 1999. And, some people might think that I was like, I just cowardly left. But here's the deal. I wanted to make sure that I would be believed, and I knew that it was very likely that the government, the IRS, would try to destroy my reputation so that I wasn't believed later. So I thought it was really imperative that I retain my good reputation so that in the future, somebody would believe that I had accumulated this evidence and that it, should be looked at. So that was the reason that I thought it best to resign.
Well, first of all, you weren't a coward for your actions. Like I said, it takes a bigger brass set to stand up when you're in the belly of the beast, especially. But that was tactically a smart idea what you did, because you went out on top. So that way, now when you talk about this as a former IRS agent, it's not crazy Joe Banister, that guy that got written up 15 times when he was in, and look at all these disciplinary remarks that got on his record. No. You went out on top. That was tactically a smart move. I'm going to cut us off because the break's sneaking up on us. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We will be right back. So what Joe did was tactically sound. He went out on top. Like I said to him during the break, he went out, like Seinfeld did. He went out on top. And now that he went out on top, it's much harder to destroy his character. So if, Joe Blow from the IRS comes out, John Q. Public, their public PR spokesman comes out, who probably didn't even work for the IRS when, Joe was working there, but he'll come out and say, oh, well, we Banister's record, the guy was that disciplinary problem. I'm not saying this is what they've said. I'm just saying this could be, an example. But he could then say, no, here's my record, and look, it's clean, and they loved me, and all this, we love you, Joe, letters from the IRS or whatever, and all these great remarks and how great of a guy he was. And the only time he seems to have turned into a shitbag in their eyes, amazingly, is when he challenged the IRS's ability to actually take people's money from them, whether there's actually any constitutional power behind their BS and the whole income tax. And you become persona non grata, dude, really. As soon as you challenge their authority, you were great when you were taking people's assets. You notice that? When you were their enforcer, their dog, you were great. As soon as the dog turned around and went, hey, wait a minute, this isn't right. Well, then they got mad at you, and then you became persona non grata. Now, besides the hey, Joe, since here's your offer to quit, well, beat it. Besides losing your job, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, you could laugh and say, well, he only lost his job, who cares? Well, as I said earlier, just remember that if you went back to the beginning of the 19th century, losing your job was a death sentence. Even earlier, losing your job was a death sentence. Even to this very day, losing your job could be a death sentence because then you don't have any money to pay your bills or eat. So losing your job is a very, very big thing. It's a very big deal. You could lose your house, your transportation, everything. And Joe lost his job. But besides losing your job, which is not a small thing, that's why I didn't want it to be played out like it was small. But besides that, Joe, what other repercussions have you felt over the years, since leaving and then having the courage to talk about this?
Well, you correctly point out, Popeye, that I was. It worked. In other words, I left at a time when I could, take all my personnel records with me and show that I was a good employee and did the right thing. But of course, after I left, then that was fair game, and they spared no expense, no effort at all to come after me. And so I guess just because it's we only here for an hour, I have to kind of be brief. But 2003, which would have been about 4 years after I left the IRS, the IRS complained that I had acted disreputably when I was representing clients. And so, of course, they have this little Nixonian part of the IRS called the Office of Professional Responsibility. And so the IRS polices CPAs and attorneys. It's not enough that the states where the attorneys and the CPAs are licensed aren't enough. The IRS has to police them also. And so the IRS accused me of acting disreputably and saw to it through this administrative process that never saw a courtroom, let alone a jury, that I did in fact act disreputably, and the government filed a motion for summary judgment, and the administrative law judge, who worked for the Environmental Protection Agency, ruled that I should be disbarred from a non-existent bar because I never applied to be, on any IRS bar or part of any IRS bar, but I was disbarred from it nevertheless because, being disbarred sounds really bad, so that's good enough for the government. And then in 2004, November, I was indicted on 4 felony counts, once again relating to clients. The IRS accused me of conspiring with one of my clients to defraud the United States of America, and that I prepared on the client's behalf 3 false federal amended tax returns. So there were 4 felony counts. Was looking at a statutory maximum of, 10 to 15 years in Club Fed. Probably in real terms, if I had been convicted of all those, maybe more like 5 years. But I've got something else I'd rather be doing with 5 years of my life. And not to mention, I didn't do anything illegal, let alone even wrong. But nevertheless, that didn't stop the government. Actually, one of the agents that I used to work with was the case agent investigating me. And so in November 2004, I was indicted. They came and arrested me. And I was out on bail within about 4 hours. But the prosecutor was yelling up and down how I was a flight risk and that I should be incarcerated until trial. And the judge kind of looked at him like, are you kidding me? This guy's married, he's got kids, he's got a mortgage, he doesn't even own a passport. He's not a flight risk. Why are you jumping up and down that he is? So any little dirty trick that they could try to pull. So I spent from November of 2004 until June of 2005 preparing for trial. And I wouldn't wish getting indicted and prosecuted on my worst enemy. It was not fun at all, but in retrospect, it was having gone through it, learned a lot about myself. About that's when you really have to get a pair, as you call it, get your ducks in a row. And so the trial occurred in Sacramento, California, June of 2005. And no surprise to me, I was acquitted of all the charges. But the trial lasted about a week and a half. The jury, after the verdict, actually spoke to some of the jurors, and they pointed out that it's like we couldn't figure out why we were there. I mean, every time the government tried to say something about you, it ended up making you look good. And we couldn't figure that out. We thought, well, the government's supposed to bring up all this stuff that makes the defendant look bad. But they brought out stuff that made him look good. And I said, well, that's because practically all of their documents came from my own work papers. My own letters to the IRS on behalf of the client, all of the calculations that I did. I was, plain and simple, a certified public accountant trying to go to bat for his client. And that's not a crime. But the IRS and the Department of Justice tried to turn it into a crime. And thankfully, that's why you'll never hear me complain that we don't have any rights left. We still had jury rights, and that jury was paying attention, and they acquitted me of all the charges. And not only did they acquit me, but of course they're questioning, like, why were these charges even brought? I mean, this was a joke. So, but once they learn more about the story, because of course after the trial's over, they can go to the internet and look around, and then they could see that this was about a whistleblower that had to be destroyed. It wasn't about justice or some terrible CPA who was putting their clients in danger. The IRS actually tells the public that they have a right to pay their tax first, and then if they have a protest or a problem with the tax that they paid, to ask for it back, and if necessary, sue for a refund. And that's exactly what my client wanted to do, and he basically hired me to make sure that he dotted every I and crossed every T and followed the rule book. And that's what my job was, and that's what showed up in the trial. And anybody that's ever done any kind of investigative work or knows people who investigate for a living knows that the investigation may not necessarily lead to a prosecution, because they may look into something and find that, well, there was suspicion of a crime, but no crime here. And I have indications that that's actually what the reaction was of the investigators, that we can't find any crime. But the powers that shouldn't be, as you call them, decided to prosecute me anyway. So probably cost about over $200,000 for that defense effort. And I just basically, my contribution was basically having hardly any time to do regular work. My work was defending myself for about 8 months. So thankfully, people from all over the country and even around the world contributed with their, $5, $50, $500, prayers. One family literally came with a green bag of cash after I was acquitted, because they just knew, I don't know, intuitively or what, but they just, we were struggling because, as I say, I couldn't really work. I had to pull out everything but the kitchen sink to defend myself, and we were victorious. Again, no surprise to us. But even there, at the courthouse steps, I get this big bag of cash shoved in my stomach. And so it's just amazing how things happen if you just stick your neck out. Sometimes you stick it out, and like back in Britain, you get it chopped off. But and I was prepared for that. But it's just an amazing experience to have everyone come together and almost be. I don't want to make this sound like I don't think of myself this way, but I know people. They told me, they're like, we've been praying for decades that somebody would just be honest and just ask a few questions. And so, I guess I was that person, and I don't have any regrets whatsoever. I guess if I had any regret is that just more agents don't get a spine, and they must know that this is totally phony and that they're destroying people's lives without authority to do so. And that's probably my biggest disappointment, is that there aren't more people that'll get a spine and do the right thing, adhere to their oath, and take a look at the Treasury Rules of Conduct and do the right thing.
It's just very humbling to hear how just laid back and humble you are about this whole thing. I mean, dude, you literally took on, a dragon, a monster. And I mean, I know I'm sure there were times you were probably tearing your hair out, but you're really, I mean, dude, it's a testament to your faith and your inner strength that you're so humble about all this. It really is, Joe. I'm just amazed at how, after all this, you're still just a humble, really nice guy. And ladies and gentlemen, like, talking to him off air, network stuff and whatever, he's the same way. This isn't a radio persona. He's this laid back and humble in real life. I mean, it's just like I said, it's a testament to your inner strength and your faith, man. Just, wow.
Well, I just try to be a good example. There are people that were good examples for me, and very appreciative of them. And I haven't abandoned any of my feelings, thoughts, desires about that we have to have government, we have taxation, but we do not have to have dishonest taxation. We do not have to have a government who steals from us. That's why a new country was founded. That's why a new nation was founded back in 1776. And I'm not so naive to think it can't happen, or that corruption can't happen. But I've always thought of this country as different. I'm probably a little older than you, and we had in school we would talk about the Soviet Union and Cuba and China, communist China. And I always thought, wow, we are so fortunate to live in America where we don't have political prisoners. We don't have gulags. We don't have prison camps. And when I went to the IRS and found out, we really do have those things, that's part of my motivation. It was like, no, ain't happening here, not on my watch.
See, more people should take a note from you. And really, more people that are working for government or whatever, people should not be afraid. I mean, you want to talk about whistleblower? So he did the smart thing. He knew he had to, like I said, that was tactically sound. You had to retain that untouchability, so that way they couldn't try to build a straw man argument against you. Just that was really smart. All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Final segment, ladies and gentlemen. Man, it went by fast. Whew, Joe, I'm going to have you back on. It went by way too quick. Next time I'll pick your brain a little bit, but I wanted to make sure the listeners got a chance to get to know you a little bit. Because of of who you are and the courage it took to do what you did, but also because you do a show here on Unbound, and I think people, like I said, they should know who you are, know about you, especially if they're going to look into the whole IRS fraud and income tax fraud. They're going to know who you are anyway because your name inevitably comes up. But I think they should tune into your broadcast too. So I'm glad that I got to, I wanted to give you pretty much the hour to let you talk and just lay out in a nutshell what happened to you. I know it goes much deeper than that. But go ahead really quick before I forget. I want you to plug your site and plug the radio show and anything else that you want. If books, DVDs, anything you want. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Popeye. agentfortruth.com is my website. Also freedomabovefortune.com. At agentfortruth.com, there's one of the sections is Become an Agent for Truth, and I would highly recommend people go there to maybe get a nice little roadmap, not a roadmap to how to stop the IRS from ever bothering you again, but certainly a roadmap to kind of understand the big picture, at least in terms of how I view it. And then my radio show on Unbound is between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific time. So that'd be 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. It's called the Agent for Truth radio show. And I'll probably be playing hooky from it tomorrow. I'm going to a family reunion. And I think another thing that just drives the government crazy is that the Banister family is full of badges and guns. I've got 3 younger brothers, and 2 of them are cops, and one's a firefighter. So my mom was really happy at one point, and she had all 4 sons. Well, I guess 4 of them had badges, and 3 of them had guns, and all had passed the background checks, and made it to that point. So she has this picture with all of us in uniform, or in my case, it was a suit with a gun and a badge. But anyway, so I'm going to be with all the Banister government servants tomorrow, and I think that really gives the government fits because they like to paint people as somehow anti-government, and anti-tax, and it's just another one of their demonizing mechanisms that's a bunch of bunk. And I guess I play that to the hilt, as much as I can because I really am. It makes me sick to my stomach how other people who don't come from the IRS or don't come from government service, they have every right to be just as appalled as I am and be listened to as much as I am. But the government has it's a bunch of weasels, and so they got to figure out a way to weasel and get their way, and so they use very surreptitious and deceitful mechanisms. And one of them is, what would you know, kind of thing. Or just immediately saying you're racist, you're a knuckle-dragging mountain dweller, you're, a miscreant, you don't want to get along with anybody, you don't want to pay your fair share. So, as far as I'm concerned, if that's what helps to get people to listen to all of us, then all the better. That used to have a badge and a gun, and all the Banister family still does. So I haven't abandoned, like I said, I've probably said this too many times. We have to have some level of government, actually like a constitutional government that actually obeys the Constitution. What a concept. And anyway, so if anybody listens tomorrow to the show between 5 and 6 Pacific, they're probably going to hear a repeat. But other than that, I hope people will tune in now and then and go to agentfortruth.com.
Well, it's worth it even to hear your rebroads, and I mean, I myself, I've been called. Some of my friends have been like, "You have a little bit of an anarchist in you," and I'm like, "That's not even misuse the word anarchy because that's a whole different thing." But I mean, I've actually done shows on what real anarchy is compared to what the actual label is, misuse of terms or whatever. But I'm not running around 100% full-on anarchist, but the term government itself, I like to say structure, because government is actually formed from 2 words, 2 Latin words, verb and a noun, govern and mentis. mentis meaning like mind, or man, mind, and govern, obviously, to control. So it's literally government literally means mind control. I could not make this up, dude. So like when people are like, we need government, I'm like, you need mind control? No, you don't. You need structure. Structure I get. I'm firefighter for over 6 years and former military. I totally understand structure. Okay, I get it. But I'm not a big fan of huge government looking over your shoulder. But I agree, there does need to be some sort of structure. You want things to flow and operate smoothly. You don't want just complete chaos. So yeah, I get that. Joe, we're out of time, but I'm going to have you back on to just have a discussion about that in and of itself.
I'd be happy to anytime, Popeye.
Man, I have to say, dude, it's just, honor to have you on, and thank you so much again for having the courage to stand up to the beast that is the IRS.
Well, I appreciate what you do, and I'm a big fan. I signed up to Federal Jack a long time ago, and I love what you do.
Well, thank you. Awesome endorsement. Couldn't ask for a better one. Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. I'll catch you all again Monday. Love you all. We're out of here.